Yes, it's absolutely true that women initiate divorce more than men. In fact, 2/3 of divorces are initiated by women. But despite what the red pill community and the incels would have you believe, it is not because they just want to use men, take half their money, and run. So in this video, I want to correct the false narrative that that's what's happening with divorce and women and give you 4 reasons that women initiate divorce more than men in hopes that you can avoid divorce in your relationship. That's today on RelationShots. Hey, welcome to RelationShots. If this is your first time hanging out with us, so glad you're here. Don't forget to download your free guide to intimacy. You'll see a link for that in the description area below, as well as a bunch of other resources that may be valuable for you in your relationship journey. So let's talk about this. Women initiate divorce 2/3 of the time, so almost 70% of the time, divorce is initiated by women. But the problem is there is a loud community of men, these red pill communities, these incels that are trying to convince you, because they have become convinced that the reason that's happening is because women are evil and women just want to use men, take half their money, and leave. And so they have concluded and are trying to get you to conclude that divorce is a bad idea or marriage is a bad idea for men and it has no benefits and therefore men should avoid it. So the statistic is true, but the reason why is false. And so I want to give you 4 reasons that women are initiating divorce more now than ever before, in hopes that you can address some of these things in your relationships. If you're married, you can avoid divorce and understand what's going on inside the relationship. So we're going to start super practical and then we're going to get deeper. Practically just speaking, women have more financial stability than they've ever had, right? Women have more job opportunities than they've ever had. Women's earning potential is probably higher than they've ever had. And so for a lot of women, because they have the financial stability on their own, there is less risk in ending a relationship because they can stand on their own. And for that reason alone, a lot of women are concluding, you know what? I don't need to stay in this thing because I have no way to support myself. And so if they're in a dysfunctional or toxic relationship, they may go, you know what? I can take care of my things on my own. And so instead of staying in something that is not healthy for me, I'll go ahead and dip and get out of here. So one of the reasons, just a practical reason, I don't think this is the majority of it, but one of the reasons is they just have more financial stability. A second reason that women are initiating more divorce is that women tend to feel more negative emotion than men in the relationship, right? Women are predisposed, they are wired genetically, they experience higher levels of negative emotion. You can see why this is a good thing, right? When it comes to parenting, because they need to be on the lookout to care for and protect and notice the security of their babies and children, and hopefully they're more sensitive to that. That makes a lot of sense. That's why, if men were the primary caregivers and nurturers, often we probably have a lot less kids that make it through life, because if you're a man, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We tend to miss some things. We tend to do some things that may not be the safest. And so you can see there's just a natural biological reason why it is good for women to experience more negative emotions, to be more perceptive of what's going on in the relationship. And so for that reason, I know from my own experience, if I'll ask couples to kind of rate their marriage on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being highest, most of the time, men tend to rate the marriage 2 to 3 points higher than the women tend to rate the marriage, because they're not as sensitive to what's going on emotionally in a relationship. And for that reason, many women, more so than men, are feeling emotionally unhappy or disconnected in a relationship. And so over time, you can imagine that women feel that disconnection more and more and more, and men may be oblivious to it, unaware of it. All the while, their wife is becoming more and more disconnected, more and more disillusioned, and is actually kind of turning away from the marriage, right? And so women even are socialized, I would say, to be more emotionally intelligent and more emotionally receptive of what's going on with the people around them. And so for all these reasons, generally, when you look at a marriage, often the women are experiencing more emotional unhappiness in a marriage than the men are, because they're more sensitive to those negative emotions. And so over time, yes, oftentimes by the time a woman has initiated divorce, She has felt disconnected for long periods of time, usually years, has probably grieved the ending of that relationship internally and personally before finally and ever making the decision and pulling the trigger to go ahead and get a divorce. So women experiencing negative emotions more than men is another likely reason that they're initiating divorce more than men. A third reason that women tend to initiate divorce more than men. Now, hear me on this one. Don't turn it off. Don't get mad. But let me walk this one all the way out. So, a third reason that women probably initiate divorce more than men is marriage is better for men. Now, I know all the incels would have you believe the other way around, but men enjoy many benefits like better health, like longevity of life, like earning more income, and a lot of these perks women do not experience inside the marriage, and so thus men are less likely to initiate divorce because they're experiencing more benefits out of the marriage than generally women are. And before you write me off and go, that's not true, let me give you some stats that support the fact that men benefit more from marriage than women do. Compared to unmarried men, married men have lower depression, improved cognitive function, better mental health, they have a lower risk of Alzheimer's, they have better blood sugar levels, they tend to live 2.2 years longer than unmarried men, and even when husband and wife both have full-time jobs outside the home, women tend to bear more of the responsibility of parenting, of household chores and responsibilities, which mean women will tend to be more fatigued, which means they'll be a little more unhappy in the relationship. And on top of all that, married men actually earn more average over time than single unmarried men. So men are reaping far more benefits, health-wise, financially, life expectancy than women are, and women do not reap the benefits and the perks to the same level the men do. So you can see why men are less likely to file for divorce, because they are benefiting more from the marriage. Now, this flies in the face of all the people that would tell you that men don't benefit at all from marriage. They actually do. And there's all kinds of other stuff. Obviously, their risky behavior is cut down. Men who get married become more domesticated, which means they don't do as stupid of things. They go to the doctor more often. There's so many things, benefits that happen to men who get married, and women are not experiencing all those. And a fourth reason are what I call AAA: abuse, affairs, and addiction. So women are more likely to suffer physical, emotional abuse in marriage, statistically, than men. Men are more likely to have affairs, I think 20% versus 13% for women. And men are more likely to have addictions to things like alcohol, drugs, and pornography. And all of those things, abuse, affairs, and addictions, are all going to impact the quality of the relationship and the quality of the marriage. And because women tend to suffer more at the hands of men when it comes to physical abuse, when it comes to stepping outside the marriage, and when it comes to them dealing with addictions, women, again, because they experience more negative emotion, are going to experience all those things in such a way that they don't want to stay in the marriage. So, for all of you out there who have convinced yourself that marriage has no benefit for men, and they just get used by women, they take all their money and then they leave them, there are some specific reasons behind why women are not experiencing the same level of marital satisfaction that men are. And there's lots of research around that when men and women are surveyed on their marital satisfaction, that men generally report higher levels of marital satisfaction than women do. And so for those reasons, 2/3 of divorces are indeed initiated by women, but it's not because they've set out to use men, take half their stuff, and run off. It's because they're experiencing more stress, more distress, and more unhappiness inside the marriage. So what's the solution? we've got to stay connected to each other. We've got to be intentional about doing the things in marriage that keep husband and wife connected, that keep husband and wife feeling cared for. We've got to have regular check-ins on the relationship. We've got to have outside help, resources, counselors, mentors to help us create marriages where both husband and wife are experiencing the fullness of a healthy, thriving marriage. And that is the solution to not getting divorced, not getting mad because women initiate divorce more than men and saying we just should never get married again. So hopefully that was helpful to you to correct some of the false narrative out there about men and marriage. I'd love to hear your comments. Drop a comment in the comment section below. And again, if you haven't downloaded that free guide to intimacy, that'll be a first step in helping you evaluate 4 areas of intimacy in your marriage and find some ways that you can increase connection. That's all for now. I'll see you next time right back here on RelationShots.